What is up, everyone? So some of you may know this, most of you probably don't, but we actually launched our channel back in 2016, and this was the first tutorial series that I did, was on Hearts of Iron 3, the Black Ice Overhaul mod. Now, it's substantially outdated because there's been substantial work done on the Black Ice mod. Lots of more versions have been released. This particular version is version 12.0.3, which was released, I believe, in April of 2024. So it's an active community. You're constantly updating the mod, even though this is an old game. And I put a poll out there recently asking y'all if there were any tutorial series that you would like me to do, and if so, which ones. I put Supreme Ruler 2030, Conflict of Nations World War III, this game, and then other, and then I asked you to state specifics if you hit other, and overwhelmingly this won out. I think it was like 80% of y'all wanted an updated tutorial series on this game, so I'm doing it. The way I'm going to break this down is I'm going to do an overview of the HUD for this video, and there might still, for those of you who haven't played the game in a long time and you're just now coming back, I think that'll be beneficial for you. I know it was for me, because I hadn't played this game in a while, and just going back over the HUD and refreshing my memory on how the various aspects of the game worked was really helpful for me. And then what I'll do in future tutorial videos is focus fire on specific aspects of the game and give you a down and dirty on that. Before I start, a couple of things I want to highlight. Number one, determine how you're going to save your game and be consistent with it. And what I mean by that is, if you're going to do autosave. If you're going to do manual save, do that. For some reason, when you're doing both, it almost like confuses the game, and then you ends up crashing and you get a corrupted file and you lose your entire game. So pick one or the other and stick with it. Additionally, what I usually do is I will save backup versions of the game just in case. So I'll have 3 basically saves for my game. And if one gets corrupted, maybe I lose like a couple weeks in game of time, but it's not crazy, right? So I would say keep multiple saves as well. And then number 2 is behind this, what the mod creators have done, and they created a nifty little utility tool that actually allows you to modify the game without actually having to go into like, WordPad and Notepad rather, and adjust code and all that sort of stuff. You can use the utility tool, which does that for you. So the way you go do that is you minimize the game, you go into Windows, and then you have it right here. And as you can see, there's a bunch of different stuff you can do. I believe you have to actually have your country selected and be like in game and playing for a lot of this stuff to populate. But you can go in here and change things up. So for example, if you need a strategic resource, which I'll talk about in this video what those are, you can go in and activate it and do all that sort of stuff. So really cool feature. Didn't have this when I originally did the tutorial series for the game. One of the many things they've updated and included in the game. So I just highlight that because I actually was not aware that utility tool even existed until I was, I think, watching somebody else and I saw them messing around with it. So it's back there. All right. And I will apologize in advance if I repeat some things in future videos that I talk about here or in other videos. It's more just to keep me on track going forward. Okay. So I created a game with Japan just because with them, they have pretty much everything that I want to show you and go over with you in my tutorial series. So I'll be doing it with them. In the comment section, if you have a particular country you want me to play as, let me know. I am going to do probably another Let's Play series in this. Major country though. I don't want to do minor countries. I've done that. They can be fun, but I'm looking for, a lot of action, and playing the major countries gets you that. Okay, so I'm going to start in the bottom here, and we're just going to go clockwise. I'm not going to cover everything because a lot of it's self-explanatory. What's really nice with this game, and I wish more games did this, to be honest with you, like Supreme Ruler 2030, is you just hover over it and it'll tell you like what it is. So like this flag, you hover over it, it says officer ratio. For some freaking reason, Supreme Ruler 2030 does not do this. And you end up having to Google like everything. All right. So I'm not going to go over the obvious stuff. I'm just going to focus on the stuff that maybe isn't as self-explanatory or obvious on its face. The first feature that I want to talk about, which they didn't have this when I did the original tutorial series back in 2016, is this battle plan option, which is really cool in my opinion. Because when you're invading with a force, I mean, you can see here, right? This is the very beginning of the game, 1936, which is where Black Ice starts you. You already have a lot of units. Like, let me see if I can. This is just over here too. This isn't our islands, our island areas. Oh, come on. Here, I'll just do like that. And look at all these guys. That's just like right here. So when you're attacking, you know, it can be hard to kind of keep everything organized, which when I go over my army composition video, hopefully I'll give you some significant tips and tricks to make sure your army stays organized and doing what you want it to do. But the battle plan editor, what that does is it kind of helps you in advance figure out how you want to go about invading. And then while you're, because you can't have all these open at the same time. And so I'm going to show you how I do mine, but if you have your own strategy, you know, go for that. But for me, when I invade a country, I go after the victory points, because the quickest way to win a war is to take enough victory points to force that national unity down to a sufficient number that the country surrenders, right? Now, some countries, you got to take all their victory points before they'll surrender, but other countries will capitulate if you take sufficient number of victory points such that it drives down their national unity to a point that they have to surrender, right? So I'll do that, but I don't play with victory point, the overlay on. I usually play with either political or weather or terrain when I'm attacking, and that's just for obvious reasons, right? Your units that you build, they have strengths and weaknesses depending on the terrain that they're in, including, you know, the weather, for example, right? The weather will affect, say, your Air Force or your tanks. And so I'm constantly monitoring that, because again, this is a real-time game. So once I hit on pause, it goes real time. I'm not going to be switching around just to look at victory points and such. So what I'll do is, sorry guys, keep forgetting to move the mouse there. I'll turn on victory points. I'll open my battle editor. I'll go ahead and create a new one. You can title it whatever you want. Operation Pwn Noob. And then I'll say, okay, I want to grab, again, it's really easy to use all this stuff, but you just go here, you can, the thickness of the arrows and whatever. Let's say I want to go, right, and then, you know, down here and so forth, right? And then what I might do is I might say, after I do that, that's going to be, you know, phase 1 is I stop right there or whatever. Make sure you save it. There. I don't know why I have 2 of these. And then you can close it, so you don't have to look at your, it doesn't have to stay on the map. You can turn it on and off as you want. So then when I'm attacking, I go to terrain. This terrain map mode is completely worthless in my opinion. I don't ever use that. Like this, and I open my battle plans. I say, oh, okay. So this is a victory point. This is a victory point. These red are all cities, so they're not necessarily victory points, right? They're urban areas. I know that's where I need to take those, right? So that's how I use it, but you could use it however you want, but I do find it very, very helpful. And you can have multiple battle plans open at any time, and they all kind of layer with each other. So you could even do, you know, this can be Operation Pwn Noob phase 1. I can have a separate one for phase 2 that I open up after I accomplish phase 1, and so forth. One final thing I'll speak to this on before I move forward, because again, it's pretty self-explanatory, is the historical plans, which are really cool. The developers of the mod took the time to build out the historic battle plans. And that you could use if you want, which I think is really cool. So say the invasion of China, for example. You select that. Let's go ahead and close ours so it's not interfering. There you go. That is how the invasion of China went from 1937. You got 37 up here, 37. Green is 38, it looks like. And then they went back to yellow for 39, which I think it would have made more sense to maybe make this a different color. And then you can actually go in and I think edit these if you want, I believe. But that's a really cool feature. Highly recommend if you want to use it. You've even got the Philippines invasion of 44. That was when the U.S., I believe, invaded the Philippines under MacArthur, and so forth. So I'm actually kind of curious. I want to see. Yeah, let's look at that one. That'll be cool. Sorry, I had to sneeze. All right, let's close that one and look at this one. Yeah, so you got them going into Hong Kong, over here near Malaysia. You get them blockading Singapore. They typed in, Singapore Fortress. You know what I really like too? Is they actually changed the map. So this didn't used to be isolated like this. It was just all one landmass. This is true. Singapore is an island. And there is this water area. I was actually, well, I guess I won't get into it, but I've been there. I've been to Singapore. All right, so that's really cool. All right, let's move on. I've spent way too much time on this. The victory conditions, self-explanatory, strategic effects. All right, so this is another thing I'm gonna harp on because it is actually really important, and it's a feature of the Black Ice mod that is not in the vanilla version of the game or earlier versions of Black Ice. What they do is they provide you benefits and or well, let's put it this way. They provide you benefits, and if you don't have them, you might suffer adverse effects. First off, what are they? Go to your production tab. They'll be listed up here. Okay. So we have copper, Pacific Momentum, National Monument, which you can build through events or technology, which I'll focus on in a different video. You have a military academy. It's costing us money, but our officer recruitment is increased by 20%. Chromite, which you're like, well, what does that do? What does copper do? Don't worry, I'll explain it in a moment. Dockyard facilities, and then tungsten, which again is like, well, what does that do? Doesn't tell you. That's okay. You go down to strategic effects, and you find it in this menu, and it will then tell you what it does. These don't kick in until 1 February. And I don't feel like simulating the game to that point to show you. You could see for yourself. The downside that I find with this window is I don't think you can organize it by like letter. So you can't like say A to Z or by ownership. Like I don't think you can click the ones you actually own. You have to scroll and find them. So first we saw, I think we had tungsten, right? Yeah. So tungsten. What happens if we don't have enough tungsten? Well, we lose 4% a day in rare materials, and our heart attacks are decreased by 20%. Because again, that is a metal, and it's saying our country doesn't have access to it. So we either need to trade for it, which you can at some point. I think maybe it's like mid 36, maybe 37. I don't know. At some point, the game opens up the apertures to allow countries to trade their strategic resources. And so you either have to conquer a country to get these, trade for them, or ally yourself with a country that has these, because then you'll actually get those benefits from them as well. I think it's implied that, hey, we're allies, so therefore we're trading this. So we're suffering that. And then for the copper, if you don't have enough copper, you lose this many supplies a day. Now, we have copper, so this is going to change. It's either going to be minus 2%, or maybe we'll get a positive. But that's what these do. And then it'll highlight. I don't know why it doesn't highlight the raw strategic materials, but it'll highlight this, and I'll tell you 1 out of 1 for you have 1 out of 1 for neutrality, if we get 13 areas, oh yeah, it's another thing too. So you hover over it and it'll give you some more information. So for naval supremacy in the East, notice we have 5 out of 13, which is giving us these bonuses. And then if you hover over it, it gives you additional information. So it says you need to have at least 100 ships. We have 254 to even trigger this. And then, we have 5 out of 13, which is why we get plus 10 instead of, say, plus 5. If we only had, say, 3, maybe it's plus 5. But as we get more naval supremacy, this will go up even further, these bonuses. Okay? And so forth with all of these things. So what I think is helpful in figuring out who to attack, where to attack, is either go through this menu and look for things that are going to benefit your playstyle or you feel like your country is significantly lacking in, and then figuring out where those are at. So like here, Suez Canal, right? So you can say, for example, Romani, right? Control Romani. Well, where's Romani? You can actually go down here to find province, type it in, and I'll take it to you, take you there. So say either go through here and find strategic effects that you want to go after, or go to the resource tab again and just look around for blue and yellow and go after them that way. But again, these are going to be your raw materials. These aren't going to be those strategic effect events like naval supremacy, which is where right here. You'd have to actually go in here and look for that. Okay. Additionally, I think it fires up here. I think maybe that's it. I don't know. Another way though to find out if you're receiving a benefit from something without actually going into your, sorry, my window, freaking mouse shot me over. Find out your strategic effects is if you get up here, oftentimes it'll give you some information. I'm looking for where it tells you. Sorry, maybe I need to simulate a little bit for it to pop up, but it's either going to tell you up here under like supplies where you're producing that much. You're also getting a bonus, full civilian economy plus 35%, or it'll be in here. All right, so that's strategic resources. As I go through all this stuff, as always, in the comments section, slap down more questions that you have, or provide information that maybe I'm not covering that you think would be helpful for other players. We already went to find province. That's helpful. This is really annoying. I like this box. It tells you a lot of information on what's going on in the world day to day. But what's annoying is it's so small. You can't make it bigger. But you can adjust what events pop up down here. You also get pop-up boxes of events happening that you can also go into up here and go to message settings and turn on and off as you see fit. But yeah, I wish this was bigger. I know I said I was going to go clockwise, but let's go counterclockwise just really quick. This little plus minus is really helpful because it has your entire military composition, and you can adjust it by hostile bombings, or let's turn all these off here. Okay, so allied objectives, which is if you're playing, if you're in war and you're in an alliance, there might be some objectives that are highlighted on the map for you. But again, these are which I'll go over army composition, I'll talk about more, but these are your theater commands, which are these red ones, these guys. So we only have 2, but under this theater command, we then have all of these armies, which then under the army, we then have, and so forth, right? And then if you name them a certain way, that might also help you figure out which units you're talking about. That's land, you got air, same thing, all broken down. And then if you double click it, I believe it'll take you, it'll actually open it up here, which is pretty cool. And then double click it, it'll take you to where it's on the map. I didn't use this a lot when I was first playing the game, but I've come to use it a lot more, particularly in Black Ice, where there's just so many more units. Black Ice really like makes you feel like you're fighting a world war because they just upped the number of sheer volume of units in this game, and which is really cool. That's what I think. That's why how World War II games should be. And so forth, right? So, all right, land combat, it'll tell you which units are in combat, air combat, and so forth. All right, so that's up here. Moving forward to, you saw me go over this already a little bit. Actually, let's go over these real quick here. Resources is going to be very helpful for you because the reason you go to war is you need resources, right? So historically, right, Japan was very resource hungry because of their war machine. And that's largely why they invaded China, was for the resources. But, if we need oil, for example, which we will, you turn on the resource tab, it'll tell you areas where there is oil. So, for example, down here, I know there's oil. See? Oil. And then if you click the province or district or whatever we're calling it in this game, it'll give you more information about the oil. Now we need intelligence on this country to figure out how much oil is actually produced here. But if we take one of our own countries, for example, say Korea, we control Korea. This province right here produces 4.8 energy a day, 2.7 metal a day, 3.0 rare materials a day, and no oil. All right. I'll go over more this screen here in a moment. Strength mode can be somewhat helpful if you're just trying to figure out generally where are your forces concentrated at and where's your enemy's forces concentrated at. So you can see the highlighted green is you have more dense number of forces in the highlighted green than you do the darker green. The darker green, you have less number of forces. And then blue, which I believe, so blue is opposing forces, same thing. The more it's highlighted, the greater number of forces. So for example, here, you've got all these forces, I think, right? Yeah, you've got 6 forces, 6 divisions right here. Whereas the darker blue, for example, here, we've got 3, but they're militia, so they're not as strong. So, sorry, so I misstated before. I don't just mean density, I mean the strength of the units, which usually means, you got a lot more troops in that spot. But the overall strength of the unit. So even though we had 4 here and we only have 6 here, this is a significantly stronger unit because they're line infantry and tanks and whatnot, whereas these are just militia, so it's going to be the darker blue. So I don't really use that tab too much because I typically know where everybody is and who's what, but they can be helpful. Quick eyeball check. Like this here. This guy's specialized light infantry. That's why he's highlighted bright green, telling you that's a strong unit. All right. Naval map mode. The one thing I want to highlight on here is it shows you 2 things. One, it shows you your trade or your logistical line, which is all these, which you can AI it, which I usually do. So let the AI take care of it. The red means you don't have enough ships, enough trade ships. Yeah, transports to transport that stuff there. And then the bright green are healthy supply lines that are feeding what you need these areas, right? Probably what the game is doing is saying Korea is being supplied here, and then it's just going out to the supply infrastructure. Supply mode. Where's supply mode? Here we go. Supply is going into here from your, so again, it all comes from your mainland. So your mainland is what supplies your entire empire. You don't, basically, if for example, if we conquered India, for example, and there were more supply in India than we have in Japan, it doesn't matter. It's going to send all that supply from India back to Japan, and then Japan sends it out accordingly. So that's why your supply lines are going to always look like this, all coming out of your primary country to where it needs to go to feed your army. And if you have the AI doing it, it'll adjust it based on the number of troops you have there to make sure that they're fully supplied. But the green are the ones that are working and fully doing what they need to do. If you want to get more information than just what's on the HUD here, which, by the way, so this is all the stuff that's being made in Korea is being fed out to down here. So if we want to figure out what that is, this is Saspo, and this is Incheon. So Saspo to Incheon. So here's Saspo, or actually Incheon to Saspo, which is nice. This is in alphabetical order. It's nice. Where are you at? Oh, I thought it was in alphabetical, but it's not. Oh, I don't want to waste time looking for it. So let's go Saspo to Tungsten. Yeah, we have a naval port there. So you need a naval port for this. But Taspo to there we go. We're shipping 24 fuel to Tungsten a day because we have tanks there, so we need fuel. And we have enough transports to ensure that it's running at 100% efficiency. And what this will do, it'll give you the icon. It'll tell you what is being shipped. So fuel is a supply. Fuel and supply. Yep. That's sorry. I got confused there. This green thing right here, that's telling you that is fuel. And then we are sending, trying to figure out how much supply. I guess it doesn't tell you how much supply, but we are sending supply to Tungsten as well to keep these guys supplied. All right. Now the other feature that I want to highlight here on the Naval really quick. What is this green? It's basically an eyeball to show you where your naval activity is at. So what I did was I clicked the ship and I clicked it to patrol. So I clicked and then I hit patrol. That's what this highlighted area represents. If I were to send it down here, patrol. There you go. All right, so start here and then move down there. That's a good way to kind of figure out if you're covering down all the areas that you want to cover with your ships, because you might have ships that are, if they're patrolling, are doing this big circumference. And so you might not necessarily know what all the area is they're covering patrol-wise. Or you have ships traveling to an area and they're not there yet, and maybe you forget, because again, there's a lot of units in this game. You might forget. This is a good way to kind of figure out, okay, am I covering it? And you can do the same thing for air, same function. So see the red up here? I set this set these aircraft to air intercept or air superiority, and so they're doing air superiority in this spot. Notice that when I took off the naval thing, you can see your ship is moving, but you don't know what he's doing. The only way you can see what he's doing is either click him and figure out, which I think it'll tell me. Oh, I gotta turn that off. See, patrolling. Or go to the naval map. Same thing for aircraft. You can click the aircraft, figure out what's doing, air superiority, or put this on here to this side. So again, really helpful if you just want to get a quick reality check on what your various forces are doing without having to click through all of them. Okay. Theater mode. This is really important if you don't want to micromanage everything. If you want to kind of set up the pieces and then let the AI do its thing. The AI in this game is very smart, particularly with this mod. It will do largely what you want it to do if you set it up correctly. The way you do that is with theaters. Now, I'm going to cover this in a separate video in terms of battling, how battles work and stuff. But just know that there's this theater thing here. This will tell you the different theaters that you have. We have 2 theaters currently. We'll have a third, but you can kind of go up here to the theaters and build out a new theater if you want, and so forth. But just know that this can be helpful if you want AI to do things. If you're going to manually do everything, then this doesn't matter at all. This is strictly for getting the AI to do what you want it to do. We're talking about victory points. Infrastructure. Infrastructure is huge in this game. Infrastructure and supply are huge in this game, which is why I love this game, because that is realistic. Unfortunately, I have to bring it up. The Ukraine-Russia conflict, right? That's going on right now. What are a lot of the things that Russia is targeting with their missile strikes? I mean, yeah, they're targeting troops and so forth, but a lot of it's infrastructure. Taking out infrastructure to decrease the mobility of Ukrainian forces, or decreasing their supply of fuel and valuable ammo. This game is no different. One of the surest ways to lose an army in this game is to advance too far, too fast. Your supply line doesn't catch up. And then just like in World War II, when the Germans got bogged down around Moscow, you run out of supply and you get surrounded and you get destroyed. These supply lines will extend with you. But just know that your supply, this one, is directly dependent on the infrastructure. Okay? Red means it's really bad infrastructure. Green means it's really good infrastructure. Yellow is meh. So like we go here, it's about half. Okay? The more troops that you have in a region, the more infrastructure it requires in order to get the full supply that it needs. I say all of this to kind of foot stomp. Take this into consideration when you invade another country, okay? Because it's going to feed literally your entire invading force. So for us, right, we're green here and we're green here, and we just saw that we're getting supply into Tingshan or whatever. If we develop intel on China, we'll be able to see what sort of infrastructure they have here. But notice this one's red. It does have 3. But this one has more, right? So we're probably going to either bypass this completely, or maybe send like 1 unit into this red area to take it, and focus fire our forces on like here. And then these are the green ones. Yeah. Focus fire on these because these have good infrastructure, which means then our supply will be able to push into these areas much more effectively. Supply isn't instant. So back to my earlier point of pushing in too quick, too fast. Too quick, too fast. Your supply needs time to catch up. And so you might move into an area that has good infrastructure, for example. Here. This infrastructure has to be, I believe, rebuilt. Particularly if there's combat there. Just imagine, roads getting destroyed, whatever. This will rebuild over time. And then with it, your supply will start coming in, but it's not immediate. So plan accordingly. If you're going to push in, if you're going to effectively blitzkrieg, make sure you have ways to supply that army until the supply gets caught up, whether it's airdrops or whatever. Okay. All right. So we talked about supply. Again, supply is huge. I don't ever use this region map mode. I'm not sure what it's for. Maybe for AI attacking or something. I don't know. Diplomatic, just really quick, shows you who you're allied with and what you own, versus red, which will be who you're at war with. Revolt risk can be helpful if you're playing with revolts on. The way the game works is you get plus money if you say yes to revolts. You lose money, but then you don't have to deal with revolts if you want to do that. I usually play with because like they're annoying. They're easy to deal with. You can really with cavalry or light motorized, just have them set up, kind of sprinkled around your empire, and set to aggressive. And then if someone pops up in the area, they'll go after them. So I just do that. Intel mode, which I'll cover in my video that covers how intelligence works in this game, is down there. And then weather, political, and trade. Okay, so that's that. Really quick, over here. This is a pretty important tab. Let's go to Tokyo. Okay, so here's Tokyo. What's really cool is there's a lot of important areas in the game. They've actually added thumbnails that reflect kind of what that area looked like at the time. So here's Tokyo. This will tell you all the surrounding regions around Tokyo, what those are. So you've got 3 rivers. So from Hitachi to Tokyo, which, let's see, which one's Hitachi? This is Hitachi. So if they were to attack us from Hitachi to Tokyo, they'd have a river crossing. And then you solid land, and then ocean, which is this right here. This is your air bases and your naval ports. They're full up, which means that you get the maximum amount of recovery. So every time you fly a sortie or your ships go out to sea, when they come back, they need time to reorganize, refuel, repair if they've been damaged, whatever. The higher this is, the faster that happens. Additionally, you can only have so many planes. I don't know about ships, but so many planes at an air base before you start suffering negative modifiers or penalties. I was trying to find quickly, I couldn't find it, what those numbers are. Just know that if you have too much aircraft at an air base that only has, say, let's see here. Like here, there's only 2. One, they're not going to repair as quickly, but if you have too many aircraft here, it's almost like, just imagine like having too many planes at an airport. You don't have enough place to store them. Just think of it that way. These little things here are AA, that's helpful to know, particularly if you're attacking somebody, to know if they've got AA. So down here we have 4 AA, just not bad actually. Trying to figure out what this is. Police. Is that what that is? Okay, police center. Gotcha. So yeah, so that, and then I think, let me show you what the forts look like real quick. I'll do that in a second. Hold on. Okay, yeah, coastal forts, right? So if someone's doing an amphibious invasion, that'll provide protection to you. Beach defense is the same thing. Pillboxes are a lesser form of defense. They're cheaper. You can put them up more quickly. But really, fortresses are the way to go if you have time to build them. But they take a while. And as you can see, too, you have to have advanced land defense engineering before you can build them. But they do provide substantial defense if you have enough of them. We already talked about AA, which is kind of funny. Tokyo barely has any. Radar, which you get with research. What that'll do is it'll provide you remove fog of war in certain areas. And then kind of give you some advanced warning if ships are coming or aircraft are coming. Industry. Now this is huge. Industry is what allows you to build things. I'll talk about it in my infrastructure production video. Just know though that you want to have this all the way up to 10 before you start doing heavy industry, because the bonuses that you get from heavy industry just aren't worth it unless you have this maxed out. Okay, and then with this, you can start building these when you research them. But just know you want this capped out before you start doing heavy industry. Now down here, this is something that Black Ice added and didn't have it when I was playing it back in 16. Is you can actually increase your production of raw at your own individual provinces. So like for example here, we've got 3 steel refineries, 3 coal fields, and 3 rares. And it tells you right there that it gives you get a plus 25% to rares per level. Now, What's a little annoying is it doesn't tell you how much it costs to build another one. But what's nice is after you click it to build, if you go to your production tab, here it is right here. And it'll tell you how much it is. It's almost 14 IC, which is expensive. To put it in perspective, that's probably the price of like an infantry unit. And then it'll be done if you have it in the green in July. And then you can just cancel it and you don't suffer any negative consequences for canceling it. So that's how you kind of figure out what something costs. These grayed out areas are things that you don't actually build in the provinces, but you get them either through events or through technology. So for example, this police center, you would get that through technology or again, events. We talked about infrastructure. It's full up, right? Rail, you get that through doing like rail improvements through research. All these things are research, okay? Now, what these next ones do, small shipyard all the way down to heavy aircraft factory. Yeah. So from small all the way down to here is it increases the speed with which you build these things. So if I've got, say, 10 tank factories in my country, one here and then sprinkled throughout Japan, then it doesn't tell you the speed. Hold on, tank factory, technology. All right, so one tank factory does this for us. So if we had 10 of those, times that by 10. And then as you research this up, obviously even better improvements from tank factories. Now we don't get to do this in Japan. So I'm guessing this is probably for like Russia or for the United States or whatever. Just know if you have that capability, awesome to have. You'd want to take advantage of that, right? All right, and then here's your strategic resources that we were talking about before, right there. All right, and then as we talked about your rares, or your raw materials rather, we have full intelligence on this region because, well, it's ours. This is the amount of leadership, which is code word for technology points, because technology points rely on leadership, which is this up here. Tokyo generates 3.8 leadership a day, and then 16 manpower a day. And the revolt risk is 0, and here's the weather, right? So very valuable tab here. One final thing, these little tiny ones, you like barely even see them. You can do covert missions, right? Which I'll talk about in another video on when we talk about intelligence. But I think I could do. Yeah. But basically what this is for is like here. You can basically have that particular province do certain things, either when you're like lower neutrality, destroy roads, or what you can do stuff that helps you. Really tiny little thing down there, but just know that it's there. Okay, really quick here, since this video is already going long. And if you saw this before, this is just a quick overview of your total country, just giving you some basic information that you might find helpful. This affects how quickly the game goes. And then if I didn't mention before, have multiple saves for your game, because if the game crashes and it corrupts your file, you're going to want to be able to pull one of those other saves. So usually what I do is I have like 3 save files, and I just rotate. Every time I save, it gets saved to the next one and the next one, the next one. And then that way, if I lose a save file due to it getting corrupted, I've only lost like maybe a month at most, if not a couple weeks in game from the game. All right, let's just go over these just really quick. What's really nice is you hover over it, it'll tell you how much you're losing a day, and then basically how that came about, that math. This is your industrial capacity, which again, production, 134. We have a total of 134 factories, basically, right? And I'll cover production and all that stuff in another video. Just know that this is basically telling you that you have 134, 131 are good, and then 27 of them are being wasted right now. And so you want to fix that. You know, you want to get this all green. So that's just saying wasted as in, we only need 72, but we have 92. So let's fix that. And you just double click to do all that stuff and everything. But I'll cover that in a different video. Notice that now went down to 15. All right, supplies. Supplies are huge. Huge. If you don't have supplies, your army starves and they run out of weapons and material and ammo and all that stuff. So make sure you are very robust in this category. And you might think you have a lot, but what you will find is after you declare war, because you have to do is you have to mobilize your forces. If you mobilize them after you declare war, because maybe you don't want to tip off the opponent, which what'll happen is if you mobilize, the AI might mobilize as well. So maybe you want to wait to mobilize until after you declare war. But this will get sucked down like super fast because it's basically providing your forces with the supplies they need that they didn't actually have because they weren't mobilized yet. So just know that this would be a huge hit when you declare war initially. Now, it won't be that significant of a dip after they've mobilized. I mean, it'll still be pulling from them, obviously, but just know that initial hit's going to be pretty substantial. We're going to talk about fuel. Money is money. You buy resources with it. Then your manpower, diplomatic influence, espionage, your officers, which I'll speak to this really quick. You ideally want this at like 120% or higher. And here's why. 100% is good, but that means that if even one officer dies and you're not replacing this with sufficient numbers of officers, it'll dip down to 99% or 98. And what does that mean? It means you have 2% of your army leaderless. It's not good. So you want all of your units to be fully staffed with leadership. And the only way to do that is to have this above 100%. Because, you know, if you're at war, you're going to be losing troops left and right. So, all right, dissent is, I don't like this to get too high. I usually try and keep this down because it does affect the amount of consumer goods that you have to provide your people. The more pissed off they are, the more you have to give them to keep them from rebelling. So I try and keep this fairly low, but you can get away with, a percentage. Like it doesn't have to be crazy low. And the national unity, what I spoke to, you want to get this number up because when you're at war, the lower that number is, the more likely you are to surrender. And then what you get is these little tabs here kind of telling you, hey, you got events to do. So like here, national decisions, just click that. It'll take me to the tab where I have these decisions to pick from. I see wasted, which again is reflected over here. Sorry. And then research, basically saying, hey, you got leftover leadership points to research. So why don't you go do that? And then this is kind of always up here. I think you right click, you can make it go away. Nope, can't make it go away. This is just your political tab, how your economy is set up. And you don't always want to go with the more efficient laws. So just know that just because this is up here doesn't mean you necessarily should change. And then finally, these tabs really quick here. All self-explanatory, but like with theaters, this is the same as I was telling you down here with theaters. Same thing. That's what that relates to. But you can also see theaters under production as well. So you have theater forces and it's telling you if they have any needs. And then you can just build. The AI will kind of tell you, hey, we kind of feel like you might need more of this. And then these tabs, which I haven't used these as much as I should. They're super helpful. There's like so much information in this game you can pull out. If you're a numbers dude or like you just like a geek, you want to geek out over information, these tabs are awesome. This will tell you all the militaries in the world, starting with ours. and give you a total breakdown of your entire military. We got 26 pages of information on our military. Crazy, huh? Then miscellaneous and our economy if we want to go over it. And then you can actually get general information of other countries. So that's really cool. That's this one right here. This one is actual, you're, in a war with, say, China. This will give you a good breakdown of how well things are going, right? So we can go to our Navy and figure out how many convoys we're losing in a given month or even year or entire conflict. We can go to air, same thing, and then land. So this is pretty cool to kind of give you an idea of how things are going in the aggregate as opposed to just day to day. And that's going to be this tab right here. All right. So that covers the HUD. I thought I was going to be quick and brief, but as always, I was not. Next video, or next series of videos, I'm going to break down in detail technology, for example, or production, all that sort of stuff. So that hopefully, if you don't know how to play the game, or you're coming back after a long time of not playing the game, you can watch these videos and jump in the game and feel like you know what you're doing. So if you guys found this helpful, please hit the like button. That's gonna help other people find this tutorial series, and subscribe because it'll help people find the channel. And with that, I'll see you guys on the flip side.